The removal of flock cameras in the Northland continues. Following the Duluth Police Department's decision to end their contract with the company earlier this month, now the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office is following suit as well. Northern News Now, Sophia Lauber heard from county officials today. And Sophia, it sounds like there were a few factors at play here.
That's right, Briggs. Community input definitely played a big role in ending this contract, but it's not the whole story. As a reminder, these flock cameras are automated license plate readers which capture photos of every vehicle that passes by. Flock then uses AI to sort that information into a nationwide database. In recent months, they've been criticized and even vandalized and stolen, both in the Northland and nationwide.
We have folks from all different political spectrums, all different communities across the region, urban in Duluth in my area, plus rural in northern St. Louis County, reaching out and saying, we don't like this.
St. Louis County Commissioner Annie Harala has heard growing criticism and security concerns about flock cameras in recent months. Alongside that feedback, 5 of the county's 10 flock cameras were stolen this summer.
While we know that Minnesota has some of the strongest regulations in place around autonomous readers, this brand we weren't 100% sure with.
Harala says data misuse cases in other parts of the country raised major concerns about the Flock brand. And while Sheriff Gordon Ramsay doesn't necessarily agree with those criticisms,
there is always a concern that data can be misused, but that's not a reason not to use it.
He does value community input.
That's a concern of mine when the community is concerned about something.
Ramsay says his office canceled the Flock contract because of both community concern and the limited success the department was seeing with Flock in rural areas. The department first installed the cameras in December of 2023 as part of a pilot project to reduce crime.
We've had some success, but not to warrant the cost.
For Ramsay, the nail in the coffin was the roughly $1,000 it would cost to replace each of the stolen cameras. But he says he still believes in the cameras as a law enforcement tool.
So I think there is a need for the technology. We just have to get our community, us and the vendors together to talk about what's acceptable.
Ramsay hopes conversation with the community about technology and public safety will continue. The contract was officially ended on August 10th, and the system is off. Flock will now come remove the cameras as they're able. Live in studio, Sophia Lauber, Northern News Now.